Today I have this 13-inch long Scarecrow cutout, and I'm going to start by painting it with Antique Villa. I am using my Klingon S30. It's a nice size craft brush from Klingon. I'm going to do 2 coats and then make sure it's dry and give it a good sanding with 220 grit sandpaper. And I'm going to take this napkin. It says it's 3 ply, so I'm going to take off the last 2 plies, and the 3rd ply is your print. Taking a pair of pinking shears, I'm going to cut the napkin to give it a jagged edge. And using some Wise Owl 1 hour enamel as my glue, I am decoupaging the napkin to his hat. And at this point, I'm going to put some saran paper down while it's still wet. And I'm going to work out some of the wrinkles. I'm using a brayer. The key is you don't want any friction on your wet tissue paper, your wet napkin. And that's the barrier that the saran wrap creates. Now I'm doing my top coat. And I'm going to get it nice and wet around the edges. Now at this point you can wait for it to dry and then sand off the edges. But sometimes it's just so wet it'll just tear right off. And that's my case here. So you can choose what you feel comfortable with. Both turn out fine. And when you tear it at the end, I grab sandpaper anyway and go around the edges and get off any of that excess napkin. So now that everything's dry, I'm going to take this face that I created. We will have a PDF available for you. I'm going to take some carbon paper. I'm going to trace out my face. Now, this Scarecrow is going to be a kit. We have a limited amount. So now I'm painting his triangular nose with mandarina and filling in his eyes with black. And I'm just taking a small art brush and filling in the lines. So we do have a kit available. At the end of this video, it'll show everything that comes with the kit. We did not purchase the Scarecrow at a local store. I'm adding his eyebrows, I'm adding his squiggly smile, and then putting some stitching on his smile. Then I'm going to go back into the nose and do a 2nd coat of mandarina. And you're going to want this to be really dry before you put in your stitching. I'm going to do the half circle in the corner of his black in white in the Antique Villa. And I'm going to give everything a nice dry time. Now I'm going to take some raffia and cut it into small strips. And I'm going to glue them down around his collar. This is not necessary as it does have the jagged edge at the bottom. I just thought it was a cute additive and give you some texture. You still want to see that jagged edge, so I didn't do too much. I just did a 1 layer of the raffia. Then I had this mesh cord. that I put around where the tips of the raffia started, just to kind of give it a nice clean edge. Then I'm just going to trim my raffia up. And that cord I'm just going to glue to the back side of the Scarecrow. These finger protectors from the Dollar Tree are a game changer, just so you know. You need to grab yourself some. I have this red truck and pumpkin ribbon that I tied together with a wire, only because I wanted to make sure that you saw the truck. So it just gave me a little more control with that ribbon. I took a piece of burlap and rolled it up. Took some raffia. And using a piece of jute, kind of in an X, I put them kind of in an X and then tied the center with a piece of jute. Now I made sure I had enough jute, because then I took my bow that I created with the truck and pumpkin and added that diagonally and used the rest of the jute to tie that down. Then I had this sunflower flower, the head of it, and I glued that to the top of my clustered bow. And now I'm just going to hot glue this at the top of his hat. Now this was an afterthought, but I decided to put some jute around the rim of his hat. I just wrapped it around just to kind of make a separation between the rim and the top. Very simple. Again, there is a kit available. We have a limited amount. Wish I had one for every person, but I just don't. So we're going to post that. You can find that over at chocolatefancy.com. And for other tutorials, go check us out on YouTube. You can also find our videos at chocolatefancy.com. Any paint products or paint, chocolatefancy.com. Thank you so much.